Good morning, everyone. How many of you have ever felt drained, unappreciated, or taken for granted because you were too kind? We live in a world that constantly tells us to be nice, to always say yes, to put others first. But what happens when that kindness comes at the cost of your own peace, your own happiness, and your own success? Today, I'm here to tell you something that might sound controversial. Stop being kind to everyone. Kindness is powerful, but when given to the wrong people, it becomes a weakness. Not everyone deserves your time, energy, and generosity. If you keep pouring into others without refilling your own cup, you'll end up empty. So, let's talk about why it's time to set boundaries, value ourselves more, and stop giving kindness where it isn't valued. Because real strength isn't in pleasing everyone. It's in knowing who truly deserves your kindness. Kindness is often praised as one of the greatest virtues a person can possess. From childhood, we are taught to be nice, to help others, to always be considerate and understanding. It is ingrained in us that being kind is the right thing to do, no matter what. But what happens when kindness is given without limits? What happens when we prioritize being kind over protecting our own well-being? The truth is, kindness without boundaries does not just lead to exhaustion, it leads to burnout, resentment, and a loss of self-respect. Many people confuse kindness with self-sacrifice. They believe that in order to be a good person, they must always put others before themselves, say yes even when they want to say no, and accommodate everyone even at their own expense. While this may seem noble, it is actually a dangerous mindset. When you constantly give without setting limits, you teach people that your kindness is endless and that your needs don't matter. Over time, this leads to a cycle where you are expected to always be available, always be supportive, and always say yes, no matter how drained you feel. At first, being kind to everyone feels rewarding. You get appreciation, gratitude, and sometimes even admiration. People see you as the dependable one, the person who is always there no matter what. But as time goes on, something shifts. The appreciation starts to fade, and instead of gratitude, people begin to expect your kindness. What was once a generous act becomes an obligation in the eyes of others. And the moment you hesitate, the moment you say no, you are met with disappointment, guilt tripping, or even anger. This is where burnout begins. Burnout is not just about physical exhaustion, it is about emotional depletion. It happens when you give so much of yourself that there is nothing left. It starts small, feeling a little tired, feeling like you need a break. But when kindness is given without boundaries, there is no room for breaks. There is no moment where you can stop and say, I need time for myself. Instead, you keep pushing, keep giving, keep prioritizing others until you reach a point where you feel completely drained. You may notice the signs of burnout creeping in. You feel constantly tired, even after a full night's sleep. You become irritated at things that never used to bother you. You start resenting the very people you once enjoyed helping. Your motivation drops, your passion for life dims, and suddenly even small tasks feel overwhelming. This is your body and mind screaming at you, telling you that you have given too much. But by the time you recognize it, you're already deep in burnout. What makes this even worse is that many people do not recognize that their burnout is a result of excessive kindness. They blame themselves for feeling exhausted. They think, maybe I'm just not strong enough, or maybe I'm being selfish for wanting a break. Society reinforces this by praising selflessness and shaming those who prioritize themselves. But the reality is, kindness without limits is not selflessness, it is self-destruction. One of the biggest misconceptions about kindness is that it must be given unconditionally. But Unconditional kindness is not sustainable. No one can continuously pour from an empty cup. The more you give without replenishing yourself, the more you suffer. And the worst part, people rarely notice or appreciate the cost of your kindness. They take it for granted. They assume you will always be there, always be available, always be willing to sacrifice. And when you finally reach a breaking point, the same people who benefited from your kindness often do not understand why you have changed. Think about how often you have said yes when you really wanted to say no. How many times have you helped someone even when you were struggling yourself? How many times have you prioritized other people's happiness over your own? Each of those moments, while seemingly small, adds up over time. It creates a pattern where your own needs become secondary, where your own well-being is ignored. And once this pattern is set, breaking free from it becomes difficult. The most challenging part of setting boundaries with kindness is the fear of how others will react. Many people hesitate to say no because they do not want to disappoint others. They worry that setting limits will make them seem selfish or mean. But in reality, saying no is not cruel, it is necessary. Boundaries are not about being unkind, they are about protecting yourself. There's a common phrase, you can't pour from an empty cup. This means that if you do not take care of yourself first, you will not have anything left to give to others. People who are constantly giving, constantly helping, constantly prioritizing others over themselves eventually reach a point where they have nothing left to offer. And when that happens, they not only suffer personally, but they also become unable to truly help anyone else. Without boundaries, kindness turns into a burden. It becomes something you feel obligated to do rather than something you genuinely want to do. And when kindness is no longer a choice but an expectation, it loses its value. True kindness comes from a place of strength, not exhaustion. It is something that should be given freely, not out of guilt, fear, or pressure. Many people struggle to set boundaries because they equate kindness with being liked. They fear that if they stop being overly accommodating, people will stop appreciating them. But real relationships, whether friendships, family bonds, or professional connections, should not be based on how much you can give. If someone only values you for what you provide rather than who you are, then that relationship is not built on true respect. People who truly care about you will respect your limits. They will understand when you say no. They will not expect you to constantly sacrifice your well-being for their convenience. It is only those who have grown accustomed to taking advantage of your kindness who will be upset when you start setting boundaries. And that alone is a sign that you were never valued for who you are, but for what you could offer. The world does not reward overgivers. In fact, it often exploits them. The more you give without boundaries, the more people will expect from you. And once you become known as the person who never says no, you will find yourself drowning in obligations that are not even yours to carry. To break free from this cycle, you must recognize that kindness is not about giving endlessly, it is about giving wisely. You must learn to distinguish between those who appreciate your kindness and those who simply take advantage of it. You must understand that saying no does not make you a bad person. It makes you a person who values themselves. True kindness is not about exhausting yourself for the sake of others. It is about balancing generosity with self-care. It is about knowing when to help and when to step back. It is about realizing that your well-being matters just as much as anyone else's. Kindness is often seen as a universal virtue, something that should be given freely to everyone without question. Society teaches us that being kind to others makes us better people, that it strengthens relationships, and that it brings positive energy into the world. While kindness is indeed a powerful force, it is also something that must be used wisely. Not everyone deserves your kindness, and giving it indiscriminately can lead to exhaustion, disappointment, and even manipulation. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that kindness will always be reciprocated. They believe that if they treat others with respect, understanding, and generosity, they will receive the same in return. But the reality is, not everyone operates with the same values. Some people see kindness as a weakness, something they can exploit for their own gain. They take without giving, expect without appreciating, and demand without considering the toll it takes on others. It is easy to assume that all people have good intentions, that deep down everyone appreciates kindness and will respond to it in a positive way. But life has a way of proving otherwise. There are individuals who thrive on taking advantage of others, who manipulate kindness for their own benefit. These people recognize when someone is overly generous, overly forgiving, or unwilling to say no, and they use it to their advantage. They will drain you of your energy, time, and resources without a second thought, all while making you feel guilty for not giving even more. One common sign that someone does not deserve your kindness is that they only come to you when they need something. They are absent in your life when things are going well, but the moment they require help, support, or a favor, they suddenly reappear. They do not check in on you, they do not offer help in return, and they do not care about your well-being beyond what you can provide for them. These people are not true friends, nor do they truly value your kindness. They see you as a resource rather than a person. Another indicator is that they dismiss your boundaries. A healthy relationship, whether personal, professional, or social, respects limits, but those who do not deserve your kindness will push past your comfort zones, expecting you to prioritize them over yourself. They will ask for unreasonable favors, guilt trip you when you hesitate, and become irritated or distant when you set boundaries. Instead of understanding that your time and energy are valuable, they will act as if they are entitled to it. Then there are those who undermine you while benefiting from your kindness. They take advantage of your generosity but show no real respect for you as a person. They may gossip behind your back, belittle your efforts, or act ungrateful despite everything you do for them. This type of person enjoys the benefits of your kindness but never acknowledges or appreciates it. They take what they can and move on without a second thought. It is important to recognize that kindness should not be given at the expense of your own well-being. Many people struggle with this because they have been conditioned to believe that being kind means always putting others first. They worry that if they stop helping, stop giving, or stop saying yes, they will be seen as selfish or mean. But there is a difference between being selfish and protecting yourself from being taken advantage of. Self-care is not selfish, it is necessary. Another dangerous belief is that kindness can change people. Many individuals hold on to toxic relationships or friendships because they believe that if they continue to be kind, patient, and understanding, the other person will eventually change. While kindness can inspire change in some, it is not a guaranteed solution. Some people will never change no matter how much kindness they are shown. They will continue to take advantage of others because that is simply who they are. Holding on to the hope that your kindness will transform them only leads to frustration and heartache. It is also important to understand that kindness does not require you to tolerate mistreatment. Too often people endure toxic behavior in the name of being kind. They allow themselves to be disrespected, manipulated, or used because they do not want to appear rude or unkind. But true kindness does not mean allowing yourself to be treated poorly. It is not about being a doormat or suppressing your own needs for the sake of others. Kindness should come from a place of strength, not submission. Knowing who deserves your kindness requires discernment. It means paying attention to how people treat you, not just when they need something, but all the time. It means noticing who respects your boundaries, who appreciates your efforts, and who reciprocates kindness in their own way. The people who truly deserve your kindness are those who value you as a person, not just for what you can do for them. One of the biggest challenges in withholding kindness from the wrong people is dealing with the guilt that comes with it. Many individuals feel an obligation to be nice, even to those who do not deserve it. They fear being seen as rude, cold, or unkind. But this guilt is often misplaced. There is nothing wrong with protecting your energy and prioritizing your well-being. You are not responsible for making everyone happy, nor are you obligated to extend kindness to those who mistreat you. It is also important to recognize that being selective with kindness does not mean being cruel. It simply means being intentional about who you invest your time and energy in. It means recognizing when someone is taking advantage of you and having the courage to step away. It means understanding that not everyone deserves access to your generosity, and that is perfectly okay. Many people struggle with the idea of limiting their kindness because they equate it with their identity. They see themselves as the nice one, the person who is always there for others, always willing to help. But it is possible to be kind without being taken advantage of. It is possible to be a good person while also protecting yourself from those who do not appreciate or respect your kindness. Setting boundaries does not make you unkind, it makes you wise. It allows you to save your kindness for those who truly deserve it, those who reciprocate, those who respect you, and those who uplift you rather than drain you. The moment you start recognizing who is worthy of your kindness and who is not, you take back control over your energy, your emotions, and your peace of mind. It is a difficult shift to make, especially for those who have spent their lives believing that kindness should be unconditional. But the truth is, kindness should have limits. It should be given where it is valued, where it is respected, and where it is appreciated. When you stop giving kindness to those who take advantage of it, you free yourself from exhaustion and open the door to relationships and connections that are built on genuine care and mutual respect. People often mistake kindness for weakness, believing that being agreeable and accommodating is the key to building strong relationships and maintaining peace. From a young age, individuals are taught that making others happy is a virtue, that selflessness is a noble trait, and that prioritizing others over themselves is the mark of a good person. But in the process of constantly putting others first, they begin to lose sight of their own worth. Prioritizing self-respect over people-pleasing is not about being selfish. It is about understanding that your own needs, feelings, and boundaries matter just as much as anyone else's. One of the most common traps people fall into is believing that they must always be agreeable to be liked. They say yes to things they do not want to do, go along with decisions they disagree with, and suppress their own desires to avoid conflict. While this may seem like an easy way to maintain harmony, it often comes at a significant personal cost. Constantly bending to the will of others leads to a loss of identity, resentment, and emotional exhaustion. People pleasers often find themselves in situations where they feel obligated to fulfill the expectations of others, even when it goes against their own best interests. They struggle to say no because they fear disappointing someone or being seen as rude. But the truth is, always saying yes does not earn respect. It invites people to take advantage. When individuals realize that someone will always prioritize their needs over their own, they begin to expect it. What starts as voluntary kindness turns into an expectation, and before long, people pleasers find themselves trapped in a cycle where their own needs are constantly pushed aside. One of the major consequences of prioritizing others at the expense of self-respect is that it creates one-sided relationships. When people pleasers constantly accommodate others, they rarely receive the same consideration in return. They may find themselves surrounded by people who take more than they give, who expect favors but never offer support, and who do not value them beyond what they can provide. Over time, this imbalance leads to feelings of frustration, invisibility, and a sense that their worth is tied solely to how much they can do for others. Another significant issue is that people-pleasing erodes self-confidence. When individuals repeatedly suppress their own needs and opinions, they begin to doubt their own value. They start questioning whether their feelings are valid or whether their desires matter. The more they cater to others, the more they lose trust in their own voice. This self-doubt can lead to a cycle of dependency, where they rely on external validation rather than developing inner confidence. Self-respect, on the other hand, is the foundation of a strong and healthy sense of self. It means recognizing your own worth, setting boundaries, and understanding that you do not have to please everyone to be valued. People who respect themselves do not allow others to dictate their choices, nor do they sacrifice their own well-being to make others comfortable. They understand that true respect comes from standing firm in their values, even if it means disappointing people who have come to expect their constant compliance. Setting boundaries is a crucial part of prioritizing self-respect. Boundaries are not about shutting people out or being unkind. They are about defining what is acceptable and what is not. They allow individuals to protect their time, energy, and emotional well-being. However, people-pleasers often struggle with boundaries because they fear that enforcing them will push others away. In reality, the people who truly value and respect them will understand and honor their limits. The ones who become angry or distant when boundaries are set are often the very people who are benefiting from the lack of them. A key step in shifting from people-pleasing to self-respect is learning to say no without guilt. Many people fear that saying no will make them appear selfish or unkind, but this is a deeply flawed belief. Saying no is an act of self-care. It means recognizing when something does not serve you, when a request is unreasonable, or when saying yes would come at too great a personal cost. It is not necessary to explain or justify every refusal. Sometimes a simple "I can't" is enough. Another crucial aspect of prioritizing self-respect is understanding that not everyone's approval is needed. People-pleasers often feel a deep need to be liked by everyone, but this is an impossible goal. No matter how kind or accommodating someone is, there will always be people who disapprove, criticize, or expect more. Seeking universal approval is exhausting and ultimately unfulfilling. True confidence comes from being secure in oneself rather than relying on external validation. Many people-pleasers struggle with an internalized fear of rejection. They worry that if they stop accommodating everyone, they will be abandoned or disliked. But real relationships are built on mutual respect, not obligation. If someone's affection is conditional upon constant sacrifice, then that relationship is not based on genuine connection. The people who truly care will appreciate authenticity, not just compliance. There's a significant difference between being kind and being a people pleaser. Kindness is a choice given freely without expectation or pressure. People pleasing, on the other hand, is rooted in fear, the fear of conflict, rejection, or disapproval. People who respect themselves do not abandon kindness, but they choose where and when to give it. They do not allow guilt or pressure to dictate their actions. Prioritizing self-respect also means recognizing that personal happiness is just as important as anyone else's. People-pleasers often operate under the assumption that their role is to make others happy, even at their own expense. They sacrifice their own dreams, time, and desires for the sake of keeping others comfortable. But happiness should not come solely from pleasing others. It should come from within. True fulfillment is found when individuals live authentically, making choices that align with their own values and aspirations. Many people hesitate to step away from people-pleasing because they worry about the fallout. They fear that setting boundaries will lead to conflict or that asserting themselves will drive people away. While it is true that some people may react negatively to the change, the ones who truly care will respect it. Losing relationships that were based on one-sided expectations is not a loss, it is a gain in self-respect. Another important aspect of self-respect is being selective about where energy is invested. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to time, effort, or emotional support. It is important to recognize who reciprocates kindness and who only takes. Giving to those who appreciate and respect it creates fulfilling and balanced relationships, whereas constantly giving to those who expect it leads to exhaustion. Breaking the cycle of people-pleasing requires a shift in mindset. It means understanding that saying no does not make someone a bad person, that prioritizing self-respect does not mean abandoning kindness, and that it is okay to disappoint people who have unrealistic expectations. It means embracing the fact that not everyone will approve, and that is perfectly fine. Choosing self-respect over people-pleasing is an act of self-liberation. It allows individuals to reclaim control over their own lives, make decisions that align with their values, and build relationships based on mutual appreciation rather than obligation. It means walking away from toxic dynamics, standing firm in personal beliefs, and valuing oneself enough to demand respect from others. It is not an easy shift, but it is a necessary one for anyone who wants to live authentically, confidently, and without the weight of constant approval seeking. Not everyone you meet in life deserves your time, energy, or kindness. Society often teaches that being nice to everyone is a virtue, that treating people with respect will always bring positive results, and that giving others the benefit of the doubt is a sign of good character. While kindness is valuable, it is not an obligation, nor should it be given unconditionally. There are people who will take advantage of kindness, manipulate generosity, and see politeness as a weakness to exploit. Recognizing these people and choosing where to invest your energy is essential to protecting yourself from unnecessary stress, disappointment, and emotional exhaustion. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that everyone operates with the same level of integrity. They believe that if they treat others with respect, they will receive the same in return. Unfortunately, not everyone shares the same values. Some people thrive on taking advantage of others, pushing boundaries and testing limits to see how much they can get away with. These individuals do not appreciate kindness. They expect it. They take without giving, manipulate without remorse, and demand without gratitude. The more you accommodate them, the more they feel entitled to your generosity. People who do not deserve your kindness often show clear warning signs. One of the most obvious is a lack of reciprocity. They only appear when they need something, disappearing when you need support or assistance in return. They expect you to be there for them at all times, yet when the situation is reversed, they are nowhere to be found. These one-sided relationships drain energy and leave you feeling unappreciated and used. It is important to recognize when someone is only present in your life for their own benefit rather than a genuine connection. Another clear indicator is a disregard for boundaries. Those who do not respect your kindness will constantly push limits, expecting you to bend to their needs without considering your own. They will ask for favors without regard for your time, impose their problems on you without concern for your mental space, and guilt trip you when you try to say no. They do not see boundaries as a form of self-care. They see them as an inconvenience to their own desires. When someone consistently ignores or disrespects your limits, it is a sign that they do not value you as a person, only what you can provide for them. There are also people who manipulate kindness to serve their own agenda. These individuals are skilled at making you feel guilty for not doing what they want. They will play the victim, exaggerate their struggles, or use emotional tactics to make you feel responsible for their well-being. They create a false sense of obligation, making you feel as if it is your duty to help them, even at your own expense. This form of manipulation is dangerous because it preys on empathy, turning genuine kindness into a tool for control. Another type of person who does not deserve your kindness is one who disrespects you while benefiting from you. These individuals will accept your help, take your time, and enjoy your generosity, yet they will speak poorly of you behind your back, undermine your achievements, or fail to acknowledge your efforts. They may pretend to appreciate you when they need something, but their true feelings become evident in the way they treat you when they have no use for you. These people do not see you as a valued individual. They see you as a resource. It is also important to be wary of those who feel entitled to your kindness. These people do not see your generosity as a choice, but as an expectation. No matter how much you do for them, it is never enough. They continue to take, demanding more and more without a second thought about how it affects you. They never express gratitude or appreciation because in their mind, your kindness is simply something they deserve. This entitlement creates a toxic cycle where you feel pressured to give, yet never receive the same in return. Recognizing these patterns is the first step in reclaiming control over your energy and well-being. The second step is learning to walk away from those who do not deserve your kindness. Many people struggle with this because they fear being seen as rude, selfish, or uncaring. They have been conditioned to believe that cutting off toxic people is an act of cruelty rather than self-preservation. But the truth is, there is nothing wrong with protecting yourself from those who drain your energy and take advantage of your goodwill. Setting boundaries is essential in determining who is worthy of your kindness. Boundaries are not about being cold or unapproachable. They are about self-respect. They allow you to decide where to invest your time and energy, ensuring that you are not continuously giving to those who only take. Enforcing boundaries means recognizing when someone does not value your kindness and having the strength to step back. It means refusing to tolerate behavior that leaves you feeling exhausted, unappreciated, or disrespected. Another important aspect of limiting kindness to the right people is overcoming the fear of disappointing others. Many individuals continue to give even when it harms them because they are afraid of how others will react. They worry that saying no will make them appear unkind or that withdrawing from a toxic relationship will cause conflict. But people who truly care about you will respect your decisions, while those who only valued your kindness for their own benefit will be the ones who take issue with your newfound boundaries. It is also crucial to understand that walking away from those who do not deserve your kindness does not make you a bad person. It does not mean you lack compassion, empathy, or generosity. It simply means that you value yourself enough to protect your time and energy. Choosing to reserve kindness for those who appreciate it creates healthier, more fulfilling relationships rather than one-sided interactions that leave you feeling depleted. Practicing selective kindness does not mean becoming harsh or indifferent. It means being intentional about where you direct your generosity. It means recognizing when someone genuinely values and reciprocates your kindness versus when they are only interested in taking advantage of it. It is about creating a balance between being a kind person and not allowing others to exploit that kindness. One of the most freeing realizations is understanding that you do not owe anyone unlimited kindness. You do not have to continue investing in relationships that bring you nothing but stress and frustration. You are not responsible for making everyone happy, nor are you obligated to tolerate behavior that disrespects you. Your kindness is a gift, not a requirement, and it should only be given to those who truly appreciate and respect it. Recognizing who deserves your kindness and who does not requires a shift in perspective. It means observing how people treat you when they do not need anything from you. It means paying attention to whether they respect your time, acknowledge your efforts, and show appreciation for your generosity. The people who truly value you will never make you feel as though your kindness is an expectation or an obligation. Instead, they will appreciate it, reciprocate it, and ensure that your relationship is built on mutual respect rather than one-sided expectation.